Welcome back. This is the second of my videos in a series of videos detailing the creation of my graphic novel. If you didn't see the first one, I will link to it at the end of this one. This one details the coloring of the pencils and inks I did in the first video. So let's get started. What I've done is I've scanned in my black and white artwork, placed it on the page, and now I'm going to size it for the panel that it's going to go in, keeping in mind that this panel is going to have a lot of text on it, so I need to leave plenty of room for that. Now, normally the process for most artists is to flat their artwork, and by flatting, what that means is you create these little sections in your art that you can just select and easily color one section at a time. But I prefer to color the whole thing at the same time. So I work background to foreground. So here I have a watercolor brush. The brush is, I think it's pretty easy to find. It's called Kyle's Watercolor Brushes. Which particular brush, I don't know. I don't think it really matters that much. But so I'm coloring in the background. I want to have like kind of a dark green background with some yellows in it. So I think I'm going to start with the green and then add some yellows, and then I will move to the foreground once I have the background in the way I like it. I should mention that for the coloring process I do use a Cintiq. Um, I enjoy the Cintiq for the coloring part. I just don't like to draw with it. The pen and ink in the Cintiq is in my opinion not as good as working on paper, but the coloring process is outstanding. I love it. So here I've finished my background and now I'm moving into the foreground. One of the reasons I don't do flats is because I work background to foreground, and I like to blend the background colors into the foreground. So I will be keeping a lot of that green in the foreground illustration. The brush I'm using here is just your standard hard round Photoshop brush that comes default with the application. So starting out, I just put down a base layer of color. I will be going over this again after the illustration is completed colors, just because there's going to be things that I did that I don't like, or some things I can improve upon. But this is like the beginning stage, just laying down what I need and going through the whole thing. During the inking process, I made the decision to go really dark underneath his eyes here on his cheekbones. Um, Kind of regretting that decision, but I think I can save it with my colors. Um, but we'll see. Now that I have the basics of the face done, I'm going to move on to the hair, and I'm going to try to keep a lot of this green in the hair. We'll see how I like it, how it looks, but that's the plan, and the initial plan anyway, is to try and keep a lot of that green in the hair. Right now I'm doing the highlights. This character has gray hair, so his hair is gonna have a lot of white highlights. I'm interested in how I do the beard. I think that I'm gonna, because the beard will be darker because of what I have done with the eyes, the shadow under the eyes. I'm gonna try to keep the beard darker, so I think I'm gonna keep a lot of the green that's already in there, just to darken that area up. Again, I'm using the basic soft round brush for Photoshop. This part of his costume is a rabbit's hair collar. He is a Northman, so he needs to keep himself warm, so he's got a fur collar on his uniform. Right now I do this a lot where I just scribble as a texture. It kind of works pretty well for me. So I'm just continuing. You can see in the inks that I use the scribble to make it darker and where it needs to be darker. And I'm just continuing this technique with a light gray. And maybe I'll put a little bit white. Depends. I think maybe I'll use a light gray, just a lighter gray, but not white. Now I'm gonna use this green a lot to blend into his costume as well. So like his shirt area there, I'm gonna try to leave as much of the green in as I can. And this again is one of the reasons why I don't like the flat, because you kind of lose that organic sense of color of blending into backgrounds, and everything kind of I think it becomes a little too mechanical, and that's not the look that I'm going for. Not that I would never use or never have used flats, but it's not part of my process anymore. Using flats is probably the industry norm, I would say. I would say it's more normal to do flatting than it is to not. Um, but for me, when I flat, it just becomes lifeless colors. But there are some people, and I do go through a lot of coloring tutorials on YouTube. And a lot of people are doing some amazing stuff and using flats, but it just, for me, it doesn't work as well. Now I'm going to start adding in some more darks. Hopefully I am not going to drown my greens with these darks, and that you can still see the greens coming through. That's the plan. That's the plan anyway. Now this character wears a particular kind of armor that I've kind of made up on my own. I was trying to come up with an armor that kind of looks like Colossus from the X-Men, and I found like a mixture of some kind of like plate banded armor that kind of fits like as if uh, as if it was like an armored arm, like Colossus from the X-Men. So I kind of made it up on my own. It's not like a real armor, but I think it kind of looks cool the way it comes out. And there's different ways I do it depending on how the lighting is going to be. And then again, I'm going to try to keep a lot of this green in the armor itself, even though the plates kind of reflect with a blue color. And right now what I'm doing is I'm outlining each of the plates, and then I will add some color over them, which will mute them down a little bit. And then I'll go in and add some dark and some light reflections on the armor. So as I'm filming this, Disney has released the show, The Acolyte, and it's getting extremely bad reviews. I have to admit that I have actually canceled my Disney Plus subscription, not because of The Acolyte, because I haven't even seen it. Um, just basically because everything they've put out is just not good, not good at all. Basically they've ruined Star Wars, and now they're ruining the Marvel universe. Um, it's unfortunate too because they have some amazing properties over there at Disney, and what they're doing with it is instead of making entertaining content, they're trying to push an agenda. Not that I care about the agenda, and I think it's fine if you wanna, if you wanna push a particular message, but make it entertaining. Everything they've done is just terrible. Um, I think the last thing I watched on there was the Han Solo series I was really excited about. and they ruined Han Solo. They found a way to ruin Han Solo. So, I'm a big Ewan McGregor fan. He's a fellow Scotsman. But yeah, Disney just has dropped the ball. So until they start putting out something worth watching, I'm just not gonna pay a subscription fee to them anymore. And so right now I'm adding the blue that I told you about earlier. It's gonna kind of fade out the lines that I just added, but I will there'll be enough of them in there that I'll be able to go in a bit and add the dark and light reflections to each of those panels. And here we go. I'm adding the dark part first. Again, just using the default hard round brush in Photoshop. And then after I'm done laying down these darks, I'll lay down some lights, and I'm going to put some reflective shines on top. I'm not sure what color I'll use, if I'll use an orange, or probably I'll just use a straight white for these reflections. And then I'll finish it off by, as you can see, I'm leaving the green on the outside reflections of the arm, but I will lighten those up on the final sweep through of the colors. So now I'm adding the light. And we're getting close to being done with this, with the guy, and then I'll move on to the horse, which there's basically nothing there except for the saddle. So back to Disney. I was so excited for the Fantastic Four. I was like, oh, it's gonna be awesome. And then they came out with, oh, we're gonna cast a girl as Silver Surfer, but it's not the Norrin Radd Silver Surfer. It's it's a multiverse Silver Surfer. That's a girl. And I was just like, oh, again with the multiverse. The problem with the multiverse is nothing has consequences anymore. You know? If you win a battle, who cares? It's some other multiverse. There's no consequences there. If you lose a battle, same thing. Nobody gives a shit. They just don't get it. And of course, they could say, "Oh, yeah, you're just mad because they're using a girl Silver Surfer." Yeah, they're not using the cool Silver Surfer. Why do I care about this Silver Surfer? Nothing. Not one care is given. Not by me anyway. So I'll be missing that also. That's another reason why I canceled my subscription. Just move on. Watch some entertaining Netflix shows. Which is unfortunate because I do own stock in Disney, and I've been taking a beating on it. There was a rumor that Elon Musk might buy Disney, so that's why I'm holding on to my stock. I'm holding out hope that somebody takes over Disney and fixes everything that they're breaking. So now I'm going to add the gradient shines that I was talking about earlier. Just the highlight, just to drive home the fact that this is a metal fabric, a metal material. And I put this layer above the ink layer so that it will cover some of the inking also. A cool thing about working in Photoshop is that you can zoom out to see how the full project looks, and then you can zoom in to really get into the details. Again, I do try to work background first, then the foreground. So here I'm going to work on his costume in the background before I move on to the hands, as they will be in the foreground. I probably should have, after I finished his shirt, I probably should have started on the horse and moved that way, but it's going to be fine. I'm not too happy with how I drew these hands, but they're acceptable. I think about Jack Kirby and his hands. I remember as a kid that I didn't have the appreciation for Jack Kirby's artwork because of his hands. I just thought they were terrible. But of course now that I look back, and just like the guy was an absolute master. Storytelling too. Most artists, they either go for, like I say, if you're like from the Jim Lee camp, you probably go for the poster type shots in your storytelling. And if you're from the Frank Miller camp, you go for dramatic shots in your storytelling. Jack Kirby had both. Like, he had drama and pinup quality to his artwork. He was just great. His anatomy sucked, but he made it work. And I think there's an important lesson in that. I'm trying to speed through this video so that it doesn't take up too much time. But it is kind of a long process. I think the final length of this video will be just over a half an hour. But you got to think about me sitting behind the computer coloring this and how long it took without the fast forward going. So now moving on to the character's pants. In hindsight, working backwards to forwards, I should have done the pants first. But those hands were driving me crazy, so I had to get that done. And we're getting towards the end. That's another thing that I have to work on, is when I start to reach the end of my illustration, I kind of I lose a little bit of patience and just kind of rush through things. And that's something I have to work on. This character wears kind of a brown cloth pant, even though I didn't draw in like the wrinkles of the cloth and my pencils and inks. I did paint them in. Now we're working on finishing up now. We're working on the horse, which I'm going to try to. I don't want too much attention to be on the horse, so I'm going to try to, darken him out to push him into the background, kind of. I just want you to know, oh yeah, there is a horse, but I don't want it to take up too much of your attention. And of course, here's the saddle. We'll get some shadows on that saddle. Now I'm going to darken down the background a little bit. And a thing I like to do is add like an overlay color. So what I'll do is I'll take a layer, put it over top, and I'll fill it with a color, and then I'll make it an overlay layer, overlay blending layer, and then I'll back out the opacity of it till I like the way it looks. And we're almost finished, and I will post what the final illustration looks like. Please, if you liked the video, like it and subscribe. Not only does it help for the channel to grow, it also keeps me motivated to make these videos. Alright, thank you very much.